Rangers are stirring things up in the transfer market and not many saw this coming. Just when it seemed like the window might settle into the usual back and forth over loans contracts, and late swoops, the Ibrox side are closing in on a deal that could catch the rest of the league sleeping. There's growing confidence inside the club that they are set to snap up one of the most exciting young talents currently turning heads across the border. Yes, while other teams scramble to find solutions, Rangers have made a bold move. One that signals intent not just for the season ahead, but for a new era being carved out under this revamped setup, now as the blue half of Glasgow pushes forward with reshaping its squad, we're watching a very interesting story unfold. A teenage sensation already talked about in Premier League circles is now being linked with a switch to Ibrox. And while it might have started as mere speculation, there's now real momentum. Behind the scenes, several clubs were believed to be in the running, but it's the light blues who are suddenly sitting in pole position. Talks have progressed rapidly and the buzz is real. Supporters are starting to believe this isn't just smoke and mirrors, this could actually happen. But while the board works the phones and negotiations inch closer to the finish line on the pitch, it was a moment of real concern for Rangers fans. In what was shaping up to be a relatively low-key preseason test against Middlesbrough, the tempo changed in a flash. Danilo, the Brazilian forward, who's had a stop-start journey in Glasgow so far, hit the turf hard after a heavy challenge. For a few seconds, the collective heart rate inside Ibrox must have spiked. This is a player who's already had his fair share of frustrations with fitness, and just when he was building momentum, it looked like things might derail again. But here's where it gets interesting, not just because Danilo got up and kept going, but because of the reaction from the squad around him. Nico Raskin, with no hesitation, steamed into the fray, defending his teammate with that fire and grit fans love to see. It wasn't about violence or losing control, it was about backing each other, about showing the unity that every winning side needs. Danilo himself later said it best: "He always has my back." That kind of brotherhood is something that's quietly been building within this Rangers group, and it could prove to be a vital piece of their puzzle this season. As for Danilo, he brushed off the incident, though he admitted it rattled him in the moment. "It was scary actually," he confessed, "but thank God nothing happened." You can tell this isn't just a guy collecting a paycheck, he's in it for real now. There's a determination in his tone, a hunger to prove himself. He talked about how these kinds of challenges are part of the game, especially in Scotland, where the intensity never really drops. Friendlies might be labeled as casual, but try telling that to players with something to prove. For Danilo, this is about seizing his second chance, about stepping into a role that seemed destined for someone else. Not so long ago, he arrived from Feyenoord in the summer of 2023 with high expectations. The club saw him as a statement, signing a player who could light up the Scottish Premiership and give them a different edge in Europe. But football's rarely that simple. Between tactical tweaks, lingering injuries, and competition for places, Danilo never really got into full gear. Just 8 league starts last season tell the story. Yet here we are months later and things feel different. He's sharper, more confident, and crucially scoring again. That pinpoint header against Middlesbrough, that was no fluke. It was the result of targeted work, especially back in Brazil during the off-season, where he focused heavily on aerial ability. "I used to joke around with the guys when I was training heading," he said. "But I thank the coaches back home who drilled that into me. It helped." There's something refreshing about hearing a striker talk about fundamentals, about repetition, technique, and growth. For Danilo, the journey has been humbling, but it's also lit a fire. He's not just fighting for minutes now, he's fighting for a legacy in a club where expectations are sky high and patience is limited. And as all this unfolds, we've got to talk about the biggest name swirling around Ibrox right now, Mikey Moore. Still just 17, this kid has already featured for Tottenham's first team over 20 times, with 10 of those coming in the English Premier League. That's no small feat. He's not just a prospect, he's a player with serious pedigree. He was part of Spurs' Europa League winning squad last season, and though he didn't play in the final against Manchester United, being named in that group at such a young age says everything you need to know about his trajectory. But it was in the earlier rounds where he really made headlines. Against Elfsborg, Moore scored a brilliant goal to seal a 3-0 win, making him the youngest English player ever to score in a major European competition. 17 years and 172 days old. That shattered a record held since 1957 by the legendary Jimmy Greaves. This isn't hype, this is history. So why would a player like that even consider Rangers? That's the million-pound question. But sources suggest it's all about game time and the right environment to grow. Rangers are offering both. The Ibrox project is appealing to Moore because it's clear he'd be coming into a team that values youth, that's willing to play fearless football, and that's aiming to dominate domestically while making a splash in Europe. He's been courted by clubs in the Championship, by teams with bigger budgets, but none with the same promise of opportunity and exposure under the lights of Ibrox. The Light Blues have already added JD Gama to the squad this window, a player formerly with Paris Saint-Germain who didn't take long to introduce himself to the fans with a debut goal against Panathinaikos. But the recruitment drive isn't done yet. There's a real focus on reinforcing the flanks and more fits that need like a glove. Quick, smart on the ball, fearless, and owns he ticks every box. If this deal goes through, it would be a coup of massive proportions, one that could change the perception of what Rangers are building. Meanwhile, not everything on the transfer front is smooth sailing. Hamza, the Moroccan striker, who joined Rangers just last summer from Asfar for £1.7 million, has now found himself at the center of a transfer tug-of-war. Feyenoord have made their interest very clear, but Rangers aren't in the mood to be bullied around. They've slapped a £15 million valuation on the player, and despite several clubs circling, including Lille, Rennes, and even Everton, there's been no breakthrough. The whole situation has sparked chaos over in Rotterdam. The deal isn't dead, but it's been complicated by a string of leaks and public spats. Dutch legend Robin van Persie, now in charge at Feyenoord, has come out swinging, frustrated by how quickly negotiations and targets are leaking to the media. It hinders potential transfers, he said, bluntly pointing fingers at those within the club who are making life difficult by letting details slip before anything is finalized. The comments might sound harsh, but they reflect the pressure cooker environment top clubs operate in, especially when you're chasing a talent that several others are sniffing around. Rangers, for their part, are staying quiet but firm. They know what they've got in Iguain, and they're not prepared to let him go on the cheap. The player himself is believed to have agreed personal terms with Feyenoord, but the Glasgow Giants are refusing to budge unless their price is met in full. Whether that stand holds remains to be seen, but one thing's for sure, there won't be any fire sales at Ibrox this summer. As all this unfolds, Lille are watching from the sidelines, playing their cards carefully. Club president Olivier Letting has made it clear they're in no rush. Despite suffering a loss of nearly €25 million in TV revenue over the past 2 years, Lille insists they're financially sound and won't be forced into panic moves. There's no open door, Letting said. It would take exceptional circumstances for one or two players to leave us. Back in Glasgow, the mission is clear. Rangers want to compete on all fronts. They're not just plugging gaps, they're building something with vision, pace, and resilience. Whether it's locking down rising stars like Moore or holding firm over players like Iguain, the message is consistent. This club knows its worth and it's not going to settle. There's a feeling around Ibrox now that something different is brewing. It's not just about one or two flashy signings, it's about creating a squad with real depth, with options that can shift the game from the bench, with youngsters pushing seasoned pros for minutes, and with every single player knowing their place isn't guaranteed. That kind of competition is what raises standards, and for Rangers, standards are everything. After the disappointment of last season, where inconsistencies derailed title hopes and early European exits left a sour taste, the club knows there's no room for excuses anymore. It's now or never. They've made it clear that every area of the pitch will be reinforced and no one's position is safe, not even those who've worn the badge for years. One of the clearest signs of this new mentality has been the way pre-season has been approached. These aren't just fitness exercises, they're auditions. Every match, every session, every tackle is being scrutinized by the new coaching staff. And it's not just about who scores or who assists, it's about work rate, attitude, how players respond when things get tough. Danilo's reaction after that rough challenge, his willingness to play through the pain and still contribute, is exactly the kind of mentality the club wants to see. The fans are noticing too. This isn't a player sulking on the fringes anymore, this is a forward ready to fight for the shirt. And speaking of fighting for shirts, the midfield is becoming one of the most intriguing areas of the squad, with Nico Raskin showing he's not just a technician, but also a leader. There's a growing belief that the middle of the park could become Rangers' engine room once again. Raskin's aggression, vision, and willingness to defend his teammates have turned him into a fan favorite, and if the club adds one or two more names in that department before the window closes, we could be looking at a midfield that can truly dominate games. It's been a while since Rangers had that sort of presence in the middle, a group that can control tempo, press intelligently, and carve out openings even against low blocks. Meanwhile, in the wide areas, competition is heating up fast. JD Gama's arrival has added flair and unpredictability, and the possible addition of Mikey would push that even further. Gama's debut goal wasn't just about timing, it was about confidence. This is a player who didn't come to Scotland to sit on the bench, and Moore, if he joins, will bring the kind of fearless attitude that could rip defenses apart in the Scottish Premiership. He's a player who loves to run at defenders, who isn't afraid to try something unexpected, and who plays with the kind of joy that reminds fans why they fell in love with football in the first place. But while the forward line and the wings look like they're getting the attention they need, there's still work to do elsewhere. The backline especially remains a point of concern. Injuries and inconsistency last season exposed some real weaknesses, and while there have been names linked with moves in and out, fans are still waiting for that one marquee addition that can lock things down at the back. There's been talk of potential exits of players being watched by clubs abroad, and it's clear that if any defenders do leave, replacements need to come in immediately, not just bodies but leaders. Ibrox demands stability, and that starts from the back. All of this is unfolding under the watch of a new coaching setup that seems far more focused on details than what we've seen in recent years. There's a sense that every drill, every tactical tweak, every decision being made in training has a clear purpose. The sessions are more intense, the demands are higher, and the communication between players and staff appears to be much sharper. It's early days, but players have spoken privately about how much more structured and clear the game plan is this year compared to the previous campaigns. That might just be the difference when the league starts, and let's not forget the wider context here. Celtic aren't standing still either. They've got their own plans, their own targets, and they'll be looking to make a statement early. The first few fixtures of the season will be crucial, not just in terms of points, but in setting the tone. Rangers can't afford a slow start again. They need to come flying out of the blocks, and that means the final weeks of the transfer window are absolutely critical. The board knows it, the manager knows it, the players certainly know it. And perhaps for the first time in a long while, it feels like all those pieces might be coming together at just the right time. One of the biggest shifts in mentality this season has been around resilience. In years past, if Rangers went behind in a game, you could almost feel the tension ripple through the stands. Heads would drop, doubts would creep in, but that mentality has been addressed head-on. There's been a real focus on building mental toughness, on making sure players don't panic when things go wrong. That was clear in the draw against Middlesbrough. Despite the scare with Danilo and a couple of moments where the defense looked shaky, the team kept its composure. That might sound basic, but in the pressure cooker environment of Scottish football, it makes all the difference. And when you look at what Rangers are building, young talent like more flair players like Gama, experience heads in midfield, and a determined Danilo up top, it's hard not to get a bit excited. This isn't just another rebuild, it feels more like a proper reset. The kind of transformation that's about more than just this season. It's about putting Rangers back where they belong, challenging consistently for titles, making it past the group stages in Europe, and restoring that fear factor every time they step on the pitch. But it won't be easy. No matter how many talented players come in, the pressure at Ibrox is relentless. Every pass, every mistake, every missed chance is amplified, and that's exactly why the club is being so calculated in the market. They're not just buying for the sake of it, they're targeting players with the right profile, with the mental strength to handle the spotlight. It's no longer enough to be technically gifted. You need to be mentally bulletproof too. As the new season draws closer, the sense of anticipation is building. Supporters want to believe again. They want to see a Rangers team that plays with aggression, that imposes itself in every match, and that never backs down from a challenge. The squad is shaping up nicely, but there's still work to do. The next few weeks will define the tone for the entire campaign, and if the right deals are closed, Rangers could enter the new season with a squad that's not only better on paper, but one that's mentally and physically prepared to go the distance. And while transfer speculation continues to swirl, and while negotiations play out behind closed doors, the players already at Ibrox are quietly doing the work. They're running harder, training longer, and pushing each other to reach levels that weren't hit last season. The mood is competitive but focused. Everyone knows what's at stake. This isn't about individual glory, it's about bringing silverware back to the club and proving that Rangers are still a force to be reckoned with, both in Scotland and on the European stage. So as fans watch the days tick down before the season kicks off, all eyes will be on the next moves. Will Mikey Moore make the leap north? Will Feyenoord meet the asking price for Hamza? Will there be more surprises before the window slams? Shut whatever happens, one thing is certain: Rangers are not messing around this summer. They've got a plan, they're sticking to it, and they're building a team that could very well change the narrative not just for this season, but for years to come. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications to get all the exclusive news about Rangers FC. Don't overlook any details about your beloved team, it's crucial for Rangers FC fans. Glasgow's rumour mill is spinning at full tilt this morning after Jamie Vardy, the seasoned Leicester City striker, was reportedly spotted arriving at the Rangers training centre in Auchenhoe. A sleek black Range Rover, allegedly WI Vardy, at the wheel, made its way through the gates just after 10 a.m., leaving fans and staff alike buzzing. WI speculation. Could it be? Could the 37-year-old England international, famed for his pace and lethal finishing, be on the brink of a sensational move north o' the border? While there's no official word frae the Ibrox hierarchy, whispers grow louder by the hour that the Gers are considering a short-term deal tie at firepower tie their front line of Vardy, who spent the majority of his career terrorizing Premier League defences in a Leicester shirt, has long been linked wi a move away frae the Foxes, especially as they continue tie reshape under new management. His contract's running low, and WI limited minutes in the Championship last season. He could be keen for one last challenge and a crack at European football, something Rangers are poised to offer. Some sources close to the club suggest Vardy's visit was not just a courtesy call. Talks are believed to be at an advanced stage. WI negotiations focusing on a one-year deal. Possibly WI the option to extend dependent on performance. His experience, personality, and knack for scoring at big moments could prove invaluable as Rangers look to wrestle the title back frae their Parkhead rivals. Fans, naturally, are split. While many are thrilled at the idea of seeing such a recognizable name don the Royal Blue, there's question whether Vardy's best days are behind him. Still, if there's one thing the Englishman has proven time and again, it's that he thrives on doubt. The Ibrox faithful will be watching closely in the coming days. For new, it's a whisper, a glimpse, a maybe, but in Glasgow, that's more than enough to stir the pot. Greetings, fans. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, as it's greatly appreciated by Rangers FC. And don't forget to share your thoughts on the news in the comments section below. Until the next video, stay tuned.